Hi there, it's Bruce Wallace from Dundee and Victoria Chess Club in Bodie, Scotland, and I'm going to present a classic Capablanca game tonight, and I'm presenting this for Majnu, who's given me a lot of advice on how to make these videos, and I know he's a big Capablanca fan. And his opponent here playing white was Nimzowitsch. Now, I borrowed this game from Garry Kasparov's book On My Great Predecessors, about the first 4 world champions. So I use a few of his annotations. I hope he doesn't mind. And we'll kick off here. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, knight C3, knight F6, bishop B5. Now here we have a version of the Ruy Lopez, and Capablanca plays D6, which is the Steinitz defense, and has an absolutely rock solid reputation. D4, bishop D7, and Nimzowitsch gives up his Ruy Lopez bishop, and Kasparov criticises him for this. But bishop takes, queen D3, e takes D4, knight takes, G6, and this shows that Capablanca intends to fianchetto his kingside bishop. Knight takes, pawn takes, and queen A6, and this queen excursion is instructive, particularly around the theme of tempo. It does involve Capablanca giving up a pawn, however, because he plays queen A6, queen B7, rook must move, and now white snaffles the pawn. Black now fianchettos the bishop, white castles, black castles, and now queen A6, and Kasparov says loss of tempo. Perhaps better there was F3 supporting the knight, and then queen straight back to F2. However, this allows black to make moves with tempo. Rook E8, attacking the pawn twice, so white must defend. He brings the queen back. Now if you look at this queen's journey, it's gone to D3, to A6, to B7, to A7 to take the pawn, back to A6, and now back to D3. 6 moves, while Capablanca's queen has moved once. And this now allows another move with tempo. Queen E6, centralising the queen, attacking the E4 pawn twice, and also vacating the D7 square for the knight. White plays F3. Now knight D7, and now we just see the simplicity but brilliance of Capablanca's plan to bring the knight to E5, and from E5 to C4 to control the squares on E3, D2, B2 and A3. When it goes to E5, it will hit the queen, so again with tempo, and it's also opened up the long diagonal for the G7 bishop, which becomes a monster in this game. Now Nimzowitsch plays bishop D2, but Kasparov said that in this position there's really only one move that could be considered here, and that's bishop F4, guarding the E5 square. So if the knight is moved to E5, the bishop can take, and the bishop can take. Kasparov says now that there's no way that black can lose this position with such a piece on the board. However, Nimzowitsch plays bishop D2, and now the attack begins to build. Knight E5 with tempo, queen E2, knight C4, threatening to win the B pawn, but also threatening to exchange off the bishop. And this allows another tempo really, because white must defend the pawn, and now Kappa swings his rook on to A8, coming down the A file, and gradually we see all of black's pieces, or sorry, I say rather quickly, all of black's pieces beginning to participate in an attack at white's king side. White plays A4, and now Kappa eliminates the dark squared bishop, and there's nothing opposing that bishop, and the dark squares around white's queen side are chronically weak. Queen takes. Now the queen comes into the attack, a rook to D1, and then the other rook comes in to the attack along the B file, and you see the lovely lines of attack that black now has, and Nimzowitsch must have been sweating under the pressure, because Kasparov comments that Capablanca must be paralysing Nimzowitsch's will because he plays queen E3, and Capablanca says that is insufficient. White had to challenge the queen. Queen c5 check in this line, king h1, rook b4 comes in, and then knight e2, and Capablanca is saying that Kasparov is saying that although White is going to lose a pawn, nevertheless this was possibly Nimzowicz's only chance of saving the game. However, he played queen e3 and rook b4, queen g5, and now bishop d4 check, king h1. Now the rook doubles, and immediately black is threatening to take the knight, winning the game, because if there's any other move like h3, it's bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes, it's crushing. So in this position, Nimzowitsch has had enough, and he gives up the exchange to get rid of this horrific bishop. Queen takes, rook d1 attacking the queen, queen c4, h4, and now we see black picking up material at random, and will move rapidly through the end of the game. Rook takes the b pawn, queen d2, queen c5, rook e1, queen h5, and rook a1. Now you may ask, why not queen f2 supporting the pawn and a bit more tenacious, but rook takes c2 threatening to take the knight. Queen takes h4, king g1, queen takes the rook with check, and it's crushing. I mean, this is like an ordinary club player who's been duffed up here by a higher rated player. It's amazing stuff. So rook a1, queen takes with check, king g1, and black's dominating the entire board now. Queen h5, a5, rook e8 coming behind the pawn, a6, and this pawn is going nowhere. Queen c5 check, king h1, queen c4, total dominance, a7, queen c5, e5, and another pawn goes. White might as well resign here. Rook a4, queen h5 check, king g1, queen c5, king h2, and now Kappa, just to rub it in, plays d5, taking the e4 square from the knight. There's a wee variation here. For example, if black takes the pawn, white can get knight e4 attacking the queen in, and if black mistakenly plays something like queen here, there is a mate, knight f6, king f8, rook e4, and it's a mate in 8, believe it or not. But Capablanca doesn't fall for anything like that. He will have seen that. He snuffs out the slightest hint of counterplay. Rook h4, rook takes the pawn. Nimzowitsch plays knight d1, but doesn't wait for Capablanca's reply and merely resigns. And I think this is a game showing how Capablanca utilised the tempos in the position to develop a decisive attack which flowed effortlessly and simply to crush white on the queen side, and it was a magnificent conception and one of Capablanca's classic games. I hope Manju enjoys this. See you soon.